Welcome to the Elite Power Moves podcast, where we unlock the secrets to level up in all areas of life. I'll be interviewing some of the world's top performers in their fields so that you can uncover and learn the strategies that have led to their overall success and apply it to your own life. MaryAnn, welcome to Elite Power Moves Powerful People podcast. I'm really humbled to have you here today and looking forward to dropping some questions and getting your feedback of what everyone wants to know. So
Thanks.
it's great to have you here today. My first question, can you share a bit about your background and what initially sparked your interest in public health and interpreting blood test results?
Yeah, I'll share a little bit about my background. So I'm a techie. I came from the corporate world. I was in tech for like 20 years, and one of my last jobs where I would travel all over the U.S. Visiting police departments and selling them in-car video systems and training them on different things. And so I was traveling all the time, eating out, drinking beer, just being so unhealthy as normal. And I didn't know anything about food. And I picked up this book about what they never teach you or what doctors never tell you or something like that. And I just started reading it, and I was learning all about the chemicals they put in our food and spray on our crops and the things in, water and all this stuff. So I just slowly started on my own, changing my diet and cutting out the processed food and all sorts of things. And just slowly I was losing weight. Like, I wasn't trying. I was just trying to change these things that I knew were bad that I was doing. And just as a byproduct, I was 50 pounds overweight. I lost 50 pounds in a year. And people then kept coming up and asking me, well, how did you do it? I'm like, well, I've just changed what I did and eliminate all these harmful things that I'm eating and putting on my body and drinking. And then I just decided that I have to leave my corporate job and go and learn more about nutrition and health and go tell everybody else about this. And so I just quit my job and just went back to school.
Yeah.
It was fun.
I think, to be honest, the best practitioners and wellness coaches I know always come from some sort of background, and it's a deep down passion and purpose to be able to try and help as many people not be in the same situation and pains they were in personally. Hence myself being 145 kilos and flat and depressed, and just wanting to try and help as many people as I can.
Yeah. It starts with helping ourselves first. And then you realize, like, this epiphany, like, why didn't anybody tell us about this? I got to go and tell everybody else. Right.
Yeah. I guess that leads into my other question, MaryAnn. MaryAnn, can you share your darkest days of being a busy executive yourself and what your purpose is now with LabSmarts and working with professionals like myself?
Yeah, the darkest days of when I was an executive in the corporate world was just working all the time, not taking care of myself and feeling like crap and just, not knowing what to do about it. And, now, I'm my own, running my own company, my own executive. But I've learned that it can't be about work all the time. And so I do take a step back and, try to de-stress my life and not, always focus on work, because there's so many other things to enjoy in life. And so, but leaving the corporate world and being a technical person, and I just was so I gravitated toward this blood work stuff and looking at blood work and interpreting results for my own clients. And then I thought, this is so fascinating. Nobody knows about this either. And to make it easier, why don't I just try to turn this into some software to help my practitioner colleagues and even myself interpret blood work even better? And we could talk more about the software if you want.
Yeah, I'm really feeling you on the, when you are a busy executive, it seems to just be all work. And I feel like it's literally impossible to have an executive job, to run your teams, to fulfill your health goals and to fulfill your family's goals. And obviously, this affects our energy levels. And then, we don't have that energy to turn up to be the best wife or husband, the best leader, and it leads to unfulfillment. So I think a balance in life is crucial. Um,
Yeah, it happens to a lot of us who are, we like to heal other people and we're always looking at helping other people and we forget to take care of ourselves and help ourselves. And sometimes we just have to step back and make sure we're taking care of ourselves too.
yeah, I think that's definitely the first thing that needs to be done. Like if we're not looking after ourselves, we can't really look after anyone else. Um, what do you see the most pressing public health issues today in the US? And how do you believe that bio-individual blood work can address these challenges?
Yeah, we know in the US, like we spend almost the most on healthcare and we're probably the unhealthiest. And it goes back to a lot of what they're allowing people to spray on our foods and in our soil and all these packaged foods and all sorts of chemicals. And so it's what I try to, I put an emphasis on food for sure, but in terms of how it relates to blood work, when we go get our blood work done at the doctor, they're looking at ranges on the lab report that are just based on our unhealthy population. So people go get their blood work done. Most of the people that go get their blood work done aren't healthy. They're going there for some reason, but they're using that pool of data of blood to determine the reference ranges. And so you don't want to be at the upper or lower end of inside of those lab reference ranges because that really doesn't represent optimal health. But you're going to hear a lot of times if your values are within those ranges, your doctor is going to say everything looks normal because they only look at something when it falls outside of those lab ranges. So then they could prescribe a drug or, prescribe a treatment or something like that. But in our world of functional, alternative, integrative medicine, we're trying to be more proactive. And so we want to help people find imbalances in different body systems before those values fall outside of the lab range, which is what my software does and has are these are things we call optimal or functional reference ranges, which are a tighter set of reference ranges more towards the middle based on different studies that back up those numbers to show that you want to be, your optimal health will lie somewhere in that optimal range for your values for each different marker on the blood report. And that's one of our things is we want to try to be proactive in helping somebody get healthy. And so we can look at their blood work from a more optimal perspective and help them point out those imbalances and help them correct them before something reaches a disease state. And then it's kind of, downhill from there.
MaryAnn, that's amazing. It's going to probably lead into some of my other questions today to really dig deep into the rut that society's in. MaryAnn, how does LabSmarts help health practitioners improve their efficiency and effectiveness in interpreting blood work? And what impacts have you seen on patients' health outcomes?
Yeah, so the way the software works to help practitioners be more effective and efficient at looking at blood work is that you take the values from the lab report, put them in the software, and we plot the values on based on all there are so many different reference ranges for different bio individual traits of a person also. So if you're looking at lab ranges on a lab report, they're not adjusted for if you're sometimes if you're male or female, there may be different ranges, but that's about it. There's different, younger men have different, their blood looks different than older men. Women in different phases of their menstrual cycle, their blood looks different. If you work with somebody who lives in a high elevation city, their blood looks different because the pressure up there is less. They breathe in less oxygen and the body overcompensates by creating more red blood cells. So you can't look at their ranges the same as somebody on a lab report where just ranges are at sea level. So we automatically adjust the reference ranges and use more accurate ranges based on your patient's bio-individual traits. Then we could give that patient a nice colorful report to show their values on these color-coded bar graphs where their value may fall inside or outside this green optimal range. And it really helps give a visual representation to that patient or client on how their blood really looks. And then what you do is you look at the blood before you start working with them, then you run your protocols, they implement your recommendations, then you run some blood work after, and we can compare, and they can see automatically a bunch of green thumbs up showing that their labs today are way better than they were before. And that just gives them more data to, want to keep working at it, because when you see data, it gives you motivation to know that things are really improving. So it's a nice feature to make. It makes things easier for practitioners to interpret blood work, but also it's a really nice feature for the clients and patients that they're working with, so they can really visually see their results. And one good thing too is I have also in the software reference ranges for different trimesters of pregnancy. So if you're working with somebody who is pregnant in a different trimester, the blood looks so different throughout the pregnancy trimesters. So the software will automatically use the appropriate reference ranges for that trimester. And a lot of times when pregnant women get their blood work back, that's just from the lab report, everything's high and low because they don't use the appropriate ranges. But then when practitioners put their values into my software, things fall into the green range, and it just relieves a lot of anxiety that they have around looking at blood work. They're already, stressed out with so many things going on in their pregnancy. They don't need to be worried about incorrect lab report results. So that's a nice feature of the software that really it has relieved anxiety over blood work for a lot of pregnant women. So that's pretty cool.
I actually really feel you on that one because Lou, my partner, as you know, is pregnant at the moment. She's 42, and they want her to check in every week, and it's just been so much high anxiety for her. Like she's literally getting her blood pressure checked, and it's high when she goes in there because they're just overwhelming her with all these little scenarios and things that are not working. So hence why I actually pushed her onto Kirst, one of our naturopaths, to actually interpret what's going on. I guess that leads into my other question is, what are the key differences, MaryAnn, between blood work from a traditional doctor versus a holistic practitioner?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, so the reference ranges on the lab reports, they're just made up of people who go get their blood work done. And most of the people that get their blood work done are there because they have some, issue. So it's not a healthy population data set. And so, but that's all they're using to identify if you have an issue or not. And you hear it so often where people go get their blood work done and the doctor's like, oh, everything looks normal. Well, it's in the normal range because that's just a statistical term for a normal distribution, that range, but that's not really normal. That doesn't mean healthy. So in our world, we're looking at blood work from an optimal perspective. So we're trying to get your numbers in a tighter area within that range, and we look at different patterns to help you identify possible imbalances before things get out of control and fall outside of the lab range. So we're more proactive.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, something that's society needs to open their eyes to. I feel like we're all brainwashed with our identity around, like even as kids, we got to work hard, you got to grind, you've got to work 100 hours, you got to work your fingers to the bone, and you've got to follow everything your doctor says. And I guess that's going to lead into my other question. MaryAnn, knowing that we're living in a society stuck in the rut of fast food, prescription drugs, and lower lifespans, what do you feel needs to be done to open people's minds about the resources available to live longer and happier lives?
Yeah, I mean, well, there's so many different resources available. How do we, people have been opening their eyes on their own as they're seeing, they're going to these doctors and finding that they're not able to help them. But if we could at least get the word out on my side of just showing them that the blood work that they're getting back from the doctor, the ranges aren't good, and they don't order as many tests as they should. And so we get blood work back from people, and they're like, I'm like looking at it like, well, where's the iron panel? I mean, you can't assess anemia properly without knowing the iron levels with ferritin. I mean, that's just one example, but It somehow, how do we get the word out about the blood work and the ranges that they get from their doctor, and they're just not good enough? That, I don't know. I would love to get the word out more about that for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I guess we're going to start doing with what we're talking about today, and opening people's eyes to the rut they're in society. And I guess some of these questions are very similar, but they're sort of getting to the point. So, Marianne, knowing blood work from a traditional doctor often leads to prescription drugs that mask underlying issues. How do you feel that we open up people's eyes to the pharmaceutical industry, more towards the holistic industry?
Yeah, well, if when you show somebody those green optimal ranges and you explain to them that, this is where you really want your values to fall, because if you're at the upper lower end of those lab ranges, they may say you're normal, but there's something underlying, some underlying physiology issue that is going on that you want to address before it falls outside of those ranges. So we want to just get the word out to make people understand at minimum that those ranges on those lab reports really are way too wide, and you don't ever want to be at the upper or lower end of those ranges. And there's a better way.
Definitely. Um, I'm gonna I'm probably gonna, yeah, I think it's a real like eye opener for me, because when I obviously lost all my weight, 50 kilos, it was it was always about like you got to see your doctor. These health risks are going to happen. And I think the scare from a doctor is important, but obviously the pharmaceutical drugs that we get are obviously just going to mask the issue, and they're never going to really fix it like a micronutrients from a health practitioner would. Um,
Right. And a lot of those drugs deplete different nutrients too. So you're taking a drug to mask a symptom, but then it's also contributing to depleting more nutrients, which could be the root cause of the problem in the first place.
that's right.
Yeah.
Marianne, in Australia, blood work from a traditional doctor is always tested on a population of around 90 unhealthy people, as you mentioned, is the same in America, and it's never 100% accurate. Um, do you see this being the same issue in the US?
Yeah. And the ranges, because you're right. So the ranges on the blood work report, on the lab report, like LabCorp and Quest, those are our biggest labs in the US. They're just using data from the population that they're testing at that lab or around the country. And so I've seen the ranges, they get wider and wider every year because they're just using the population of sick people who get their blood work done. So yeah, it's not going to get any better. They're only going to get wider. So you want to, look at those ranges from, you want to look at a tighter set of ranges under each marker to make sure you're, staying in optimal health.
Um, Marianne, my last question, I guess, is Marianne, in Australia, with our holistic practitioners have matched blood work from a doctor to what we do. We've found that doctors have told patients they don't have insulin resistance, and then we've found out they do. We also test ferritin and things like free testosterone, and doctors are telling their patients that they have great testosterone, but they're testing the total testosterone, not the free testosterone. And we're finding out they actually do have lower testosterone levels. Um, and obviously, as I mentioned, it's always linked to some sort of pharmaceutical drug. There's never no holistic or micronutrients drug. What are your opinions personally about pharmaceutical and natural holistic medications?
Yeah, I mean, pharmaceuticals, like you said, they are just there to mask the symptom, and the whole system is never there to help you figure out the root cause of why you have that symptom in the first place. And, you know, it, we're lucky if we can get somebody to order a vitamin D or a magnesium. They only order magnesium serum and never magnesium RBC, which gives you a better indication of the magnesium levels inside the body. We And we're always so we it's sometimes up to us to order the additional labs that their doctor won't order, and sometimes you can work with the doctor, maybe get them to order the labs and get them covered under insurance, or otherwise, people are willing and sick enough that they're like, I'll pay for the labs that I know that I need based on your recommendations. I mean, I never see blood work coming from back from a conventional doctor that has an iron panel. You need an iron panel with serum iron, TIBC, percent saturation, and ferritin. Sometimes I'll see only ferritin, and that's not enough either, because an elevated ferritin is a marker of inflammation. So if you have inflammation, your ferritin will be elevated, and that has nothing to do with your iron level sitting. So there's so many different patterns and things to look at and make sure that you order the appropriate blood work. But as we know too, all these different medications, they deplete so many different vitamins and minerals. And so when you see somebody on certain medications, I always go right to my drug nutrient interactions book and look up and see, this estrogen depletes vitamin B6. You could have somebody on long-term oral contraceptives of estrogen and not knowing that they're depleting their vitamin B6, and your vitamin B6 is needed to turn iron into heme to make hemoglobin. So if you're deficient in B6, you can be causing yourself an anemia, but the doctor won't order the iron panel and just say, oh, you have low iron, why don't you go take some more iron, when you already have enough iron. You just can't convert it into heme to make hemoglobin. So that's a complicated explanation, but
No, I really vibe from that, because I actually suffer from hemochromatosis myself. So I really have to manage iron. And I've actually been in a situation myself where my doctor asked me to do a venous section quite regularly. And I actually went the opposite. So I went from the higher iron with hemochromatosis to the borderline anemic, because I had lower iron. So it was that energy levels that I really struggle with. So one of the reasons why I really started working with holistic practitioners and really loving looking at blood work myself, even though I'm not actually a practitioner. It's just something that I love learning about. And
yeah, you can learn so much about your body just from looking at your blood. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of what you talked about at the start, MaryAnn, because like our food is pumped full of herbicides and pesticides. Our meats are pumped full of hormones, and I'm a big fan of like organic, sticking with organic foods. And I don't think it's really that hard to steer away. I don't think it's 100% possible to eat organic 100% of the time with how society is, but I think most people can really stick to an at least 80 to 90% organic diet. And obviously we're going to get more micronutrients from our foods. Again, MaryAnn, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. Thank you, Twitty. All right. Take care. Keep in touch.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in today, and I hope you found the discussion useful. Our goal is to positively impact the well-being of 1 million people's lives just like you by sharing the experience and knowledge of some of the world's top performers. So you don't miss out on any key strategies to help you succeed, make sure you hit the subscribe button below. And if you think you may know someone that would benefit from this episode, join us in our mission of impacting 1 million lives and share it with your friends.